Good morning. This is Jason Dean coming live at you again for another Film Fanatic show. It is Wednesday at about 9:41, so I hope everyone's doing good. It's been a super fun time here at Film Fanatic headquarters. I have been well. On one hand, it's I haven't been able to post quite as many videos as I normally do. I usually do well on a good streak. I'm usually doing a video every day, but my schedule's been a little bit funky, so I haven't been quite quite able to do it as frequently. But still cranking them out, still watching movies all the time, and I have been diving deep into all kinds of movies that I've been buying lately. So it's been really just amazing and super fabulous. Most of the movies I've been watching, I've been getting at Bull Moose in the various locations: Brunswick, Maine, Bangor, Maine, and Waterville, Maine. My favorite place, my home away from home, if you want to call it that, or if you will, which I kind of consider. That's my when I go to Bull Moose, that's my happy place. So. But anyway, I've been getting so many great movies, and one of the directors that I got turned on to probably, well, a couple of years ago now, is a legendary director in the world of Italian cinema, especially in the world of exploitation, and especially the Giallo subgenre, and that is Sergio Martino. I got turned on to some of his films. Well, kind of just through discovery. I came across a couple of his titles. The movie I had heard the most about, I don't believe I had ever seen any of his films when I was a kid. I might have seen one or two, but none of the movies that I have bought that were directed by Sergio Martino are any movies that I really remember seeing as a kid. But I've been buying quite a few of his films, and what a powerhouse of a director. The movie that I bought this. Where the hell was I? I think I was in. Oh, I can't remember where I was. I think I was in. Well, actually, yeah, I was in Portland. I had vacation from school about 2 weeks ago. Stayed down in Portland for a couple of days, did a bunch of shopping, and I stopped in a really super cool place that I hadn't been in years, and that is called Strange, Maine. It's in Portland, Maine. It's right on Congress Street. Portland's about 2 hours from my house, but Strange, Maine has an amazing selection of all kinds of music, tons of movies. They have a pretty good Blu-ray selection, and I got this movie, which I was super excited about, and that is All the Colors of the Dark, directed by the legendary Sergio Martino. And what an amazing experience this movie is. It's definitely a giallo film, and I definitely feel like it is. It came out in '76, or I actually say '72. It came out in 1972. Directed by Sergio Martino. This movie is definitely a giallo, but it definitely has a kind of an occult or horror kind of aesthetic or storyline. Super cool movie. Very psychedelic. The giallo film and the giallo art form is a new thing for me, relatively new. I've been as a kid, I watched all kinds of movies, a lot of movies that were on the late night, horror shows. When I was a kid, there was about 3 or 4 different late night horror, like kind of marathon shows that were kind of like what Joe Bob Briggs has done or is doing and has done in the last 10 or 15 years or more. Basically, you have like a host. Elvira is probably the most popular. The great Svengali was another great host, and basically you'd have these hosts, and they would host a show where they would, or a whole, like, basically a marathon of all of these super low budget horror films. A lot of them were a lot of Italian horror films, American slasher movies, really low budget movies. And I know there were some films that were considered kind of the giallo style that would be featured, and these shows would usually be on at, like, 10 o'clock at night and go for about 4 hours, and they would just show a marathon of all of these really low budget exploitation movies. And it was just awesome. That was like my exposure to this kind of genre. And I know I did see some giallo films, but I didn't really know what the term was, or, say kind of the genre specific thing of what that meant or what that was. So since then, I mean, the last few years I've gotten a lot of giallo films, and I have really fell in love with the art form of giallo. Giallo films have a very unique style and aesthetic. They are kind of the Italian version of, like, the classic, Agatha Christie story. They're essentially these murder mystery movies, and they are very pulpy, very trashy. There's a lot of, well, there tends to be a lot of violence. There tends to be a psychosexual element. Some of the movies are very sleazy, but a lot of them are very much driven by suspense. They have a real big Hitchcock influence. Again, it's, I kind of feel the way to explain it the most for me is, the best way to explain it is, it's kind of the Italian, Agatha Christie. It's their take on the Agatha Christie story, of where there's like a murder mystery. There, a series of murders happen, or one particular murder, and there is some kind of investigative narrative around it, where the police are usually involved. There's detectives involved. There's, you have your protagonist, you have a villain character, and there's a series of these events of where there is a deep investigation, and there's lots of twists and turns, lots of suspense. And this film, 1972, again, I've always said, 70s, without a doubt, is my favorite decade of the movie world. I've been exploring all kinds of other decades. I've been getting into older films. I always love to kind of trace things back. But the giallo thing is so awesome, and Sergio Martino has kind of emerged as one of my favorite directors. And this is an amazing film. His film Torso is probably one of his highest regarded films. The other characteristic of a lot of these giallo films is that there is a killer, a gloved killer. You see that in a lot of giallo films, from Lucio Fulci, Mario Bava, Dario Argento, where there's this villain or a killer who is wearing these leather gloves, and is usually using, his mode of killing people is a straight razor blade, and they tend to be and the kills tend to be pretty brutal. So this film is a little bit different than most giallo films, because this movie, I think, has more of kind of an occult element. This woman is kind of taken into this kind of occult world. It has I think this film has a Rosemary's Baby influence. This came out a few years after Rosemary's Baby, so there's like this occult, kind of satanic cult that is drawing this woman in. A friend of this it's essentially a story of this woman who is experiencing these strange visions, and nothing is really helping her, and she is seeing these visions of people being murdered. And so her friend suggests that that her friends can help her, and she brings her into this group, not realizing that this group is this kind of pseudo, sexually motivated satanic kind of cult. And she gets sucked in to this cult and becomes a part of it, and is trapped. So the whole film has that kind of aesthetic to it. It's really gripping. It's a great It's a great story, great characters, and Sergio. I should a lot of Sergio Martino's films have, they're definitely giallo films, but they have horror elements. But this movie definitely has a little bit more so of that kind of an element to it. It's great. It's brutal. It's got such a great occult element to it, which I did not know, and I was very surprised by. And I love horror exploitation movies that have, where there's some kind of quote unquote satanic organization involved. I love that movie. I love that combination. So I didn't know that this movie has a that's a big component of this movie. Highly suspenseful, beautifully shot, great music. You just can't beat it. It's so pulpy, it's sleazy, super low budget. Sergio Martino is just amazing. There's a really great interview with him on this disc. I just finished it the other night. He's still alive and kicking, and he talks about in the interview where Quentin Tarantino has gone out of his way to really praise Sergio Martino as a big influence on his work, and also he talks about how Quentin Tarantino refers to Sergio Martino as the maestro, kind of this master filmmaker, very influential on his own work. And so and Tarantino has definitely kind of brought light to a lot of these really weird and strange and unusual and underground films. And of course his films are very much influenced by this world, but this movie is just awesome. I think it's one of the best. I have a pretty good amount of his films now, but I really love this movie. It's one of the best that I think, between this and maybe Torso, this might be my favorite. It's just it's just an example. They just don't make movies like this anymore, and it's just beautiful. The packaging is great. It's got some really great special features. The transfer is amazing. There is all kinds of good shit on here, so I highly recommend it. All the Colors of the Dark, primetime Sergio Martino, one of his best films. It's a trip, and so yeah, I can't recommend this movie enough. So thanks again, and we will see you next time. Peace.